Hello, hello, hello. What's poppin'? What's poppin'? How's everybody today? So, let me try to stick to the script as much as possible. First of all, thank you, everybody. I thank you for your prayers and well wishes and the musicians who checked on me and stuff. Remember, it's quite, still is, but it's my knee and it can be fixed. And I'm very, very grateful for, people checking in on me, making sure I'm okay and that type of thing. And just want to say thank you for the support and well wishes. It's my knee. Just let everybody know it's my knee. It's painful and it's bad, but it's not any kind of disease that's going to take me out of here, anything like that. So for that, I'm extremely grateful, and I concentrate on it being able to be fixed. So, and that's the important thing, even through whatever. So I would say probably on a scale of 1 to 10, it has gone from 11 to about maybe 7.5 during the most of the day. So it's still quite, I can feel it's still quite painful, but at least it's tolerable, and that was what it was not before. That's when I canceled. So I just want to say that, and special thanks to promoters who are working with me. In fact, today will be the first day when I exit the house after coming back. A couple of weeks, actually, just icing every hour. And the first thing that I have to do is give the money back to the clubs. That'll hurt a little bit. In fact, I'm not going to wait in the line. They've agreed to come out and actually get the stuff to be mailed, a service that's down here in Yuma, which is great. So I don't have to stand in any lines and stuff, which I still can't do. So I'm grateful for that. Have to give the money back, and that's okay. But it's only money, and it comes and it goes, and that's what I've learned throughout my career. That it comes and it goes, and you can't take anything with you. So the important thing to do is look out for your health, so that you can do okay for yourself and do okay for other people. All right. And on that note, what I'll do is I'll explain something to you. So here's the way this happens in giving the money back. When you sign a contract, and some promoters who are very, very cool will send you 50% of the deposit so you can buy airplane tickets and, get hotel rooms and stuff like that, depending on what the gig is about. And that's to get about maybe a month and a half prior to the date. Unfortunately, because I went down with this knee problem, the tickets have been purchased and I can't get that money back. After COVID, a lot of clubs started taking away the 50% advance, so you have to pay the tickets out of your own money and pay your band out of your own money and do all that kind of stuff out of your own money just to get to the gig, which I don't like that at all, but I understand why some of them need to do that. It's the tactic, not tactic, but it's kind of getting better with most of the promoters now in the clubs now, but they only pay 10% and you have to make all the arrangements yourself. So that said, I still got 50% and I have to give that back to Philadelphia. And that wasn't the case in Baltimore, but because the band is playing. So that said, today is the day that I have to give that money back to Philadelphia, because they contractually sent me half of the money, and I have to send it back. I don't get the money back that I pay for plane tickets or anything like that. And what I do is I try to pay the band, if it's at all feasible, half of the money that I would have made had I done the gig. So, like, say for Philly, I'll try to give the band, I will give the band half of what they would have made. So, and that's pretty cool. Well, my fellas anyway. So that's how it usually works out. So that's the process behind that. Like I said before, COVID really hit a lot of people hard. So now it's getting better, but a lot of times places will only give you 10% of the money prior to you showing up, and that's a lot of money coming out of your pocket to pay for bands and pay for expenses and all that kind of plane rides and all that. So I'm just saying that for people who don't know about the process and people who might be interested in the process, and younger musicians who might be thinking, oh, there's something I'd like to do. Well, this is what it entails. What's good? What's up, Carrie? How you doing? Nice to see you. Should I tell? Yeah, I'll tell the story. So Carrie has great apparel, bass apparel, right? And one night I was on the internet late, and I saw, and he has great models modeling his bass apparel, right? So I'm like, and I don't know, we hadn't met yet. So I'm thinking it's the girl that I'm talking to in the bass uniform from, hey, what's up, blah, blah, blah. So he's pretending to be the model wearing the apparel, and I think I meet it, or I meet him in some kind of way. I figure out that he's actually texting me back, and I thought I'm texting the girl. So it was hilarious. At the time, I was embarrassed. I still don't know what I said, and I really don't want to know what I said, but that's how we kind of met, and we laugh every time we kind of see each other because it was just crazy. But that's my dude. He has great bass apparel, Kerry Lathan. So go to his page and get if you like bass stuff, definitely go to his page. Okay, where was I? Yeah, so COVID kind of messed up that, that not messed it up, but a lot of promoters don't want to take the chance on giving an artist 50% up front because if they cancel, then sometimes the artist didn't pay them back and all that kind of stuff. That wasn't me, but, sometimes that happened that way. So anyway, that's how that happens. That's the process when you get a contract. Also, too, I want to let everybody know, for those of you buying product, very, very important. You can now buy the product from the website, Walter Beasley Official or WalterBeasley.com. It's the same one. And I will sign them, and now they'll come to the house to pick up the merchandise and actually mail it themselves. So I don't have to wait in the line. Or I can go to this new place, and they'll come to the car, pick up the packages, and mail them. Because I don't have an assistant in Yuma, Arizona anymore to do that. Because of the economy, I had to had to change up the business practice. So I still want to do products, I still want to do merchandise, and I still want you to purchase. But now that I have somebody coming to the house to pick up the merchandise, I don't have to stay on these knees and stuff or this knee and exacerbate the situation. So that's one good thing that came out of this. Well, another good thing that came out of it. Oh, also, if you purchased in the last week or two on WalterBeasley.com or Walter Beasley Official, you're going to have to, Melissa's trying to contact you so you can send your address because there was a kink in the system and it lost people's addresses to send, for me to send or us to send them to. So she is the real deal. If she reaches out and emails you, please give her your physical address so we can mail these packages that you've already purchased. Okay? And that's from WalterBeasley.com or Walter Beasley Official. The last thing is for those of you who like the Blue Zone, BLEUZONE zone over on YouTube. We're still there, and actually there'll be new material going up. We're doing overnight streams again because I was just out of commission for a while. So tonight will not be an overnight stream, but tomorrow will probably be. Feel free to go over and peruse the Blue Zone, spelled BLEUZONE, ambient improv over on YouTube, or you can visit on Spotify. BLEUZONE, ambient improv. All right, nothing but ambient music, no politics, no nothing. And to that point, when I go on when I do live shows, it's all about the music, all about lifting people up, all about taking them away from whatever their political views are and all that kind of stuff. Here's another thing. I may say some things that people will disagree with, but I don't care. Sometimes you have to say things and do things because it's going to benefit the people coming after you, especially those people of color who need to hear what to be careful of, that kind of thing. One of the byproducts of taking care of yourself and shutting it down and making sure that you're dealing with the pain that you're in is sleep. I've probably had the best sleep I've had in the last year dealing with this knee issue, best in the last maybe week because I shut it all down, iced it every hour. I took medicine as was directed by my doctor, Dr. Vega. Now, like I said before, I'm in pre-Florida pain. When I was in Florida, on that gig, I was in pain. And I've been in that kind of pain since Florida, and I just couldn't go anymore. So now it's at a tolerable, you see the x-rays. The joke is not going to get better until they pull it out. But it's tolerable now, and I can stand it for maybe 10, 15, not even that, maybe 5 to 10 minutes. And I have to change position every 5 or 10 minutes as well. So I'm grateful. It could be a lot worse. I've seen worse. We've seen worse. So, and I can still play that saxophone. And we have a nice little tune that we've done. That actually I did before I went down to shut it down. It's a remake. I'll play a little snippet of what I did when I was recording it before I shut it down. And that'll be probably maybe tonight or tomorrow. Yeah, I mean, the sleep, when you take care of yourself and you're getting better sleep, man, definitely changes your perspective. So that's the deal. And like I said, I feel if the cardiologist is my primary care, he actually diagnosed me of having a knee problem in the beginning. He saw me limping. He said, "No, something's going on." So he did the juggling thing or whatever they do with that, and then sent me to the specialist himself. So I have good doctors looking out for me. Like I said, I got to go and give this money back to the promoters. But you know what? That's part of the game. That's part of the business. You can't make all the money, and when you err on side of doing something, it takes away from something else. But the knowledge and knowing that you're doing the best thing for yourself, it makes it makes it a little easier it makes it easier to deal with, because there'll be other performances and other songs and that kind of thing. So I'm grateful. I really am, and I'm not going to complain about giving all that money back. Yeah, watercolors, man. Let me tell you something. Thank you everybody who plays my music. But I mean, if it wasn't for watercolors, you and I probably wouldn't be having this conversation. They have been great supporters of my music for decades, not just for this year, last year, whatever, just decades. I remember when they first came on, there were two of them. I forget. I think Sirius and XM were two different companies, and I had both of them. And then when they merged, I was probably one of the first artists to go up there and just check out and see what was going on, because Trinity invited me up, and it looks like then I don't know about now, but it looked like a spaceship, and they had different things here and different things there, and just now I was all in. I went home and bought the XM boombox. I had XM in both my cars. I had stock. I bought stock in XM. I think I still have it, actually. Stock in XM. I was just all in because I thought it was revolutionary at the time in the beginning, and I was a supporter of them when it first came out. And they've been really good to me ever since. And I'm so grateful. I can't put words to it. Just can't. So what's my schedule? My schedule right now is just to continue getting better, continue laying off everything and losing some more. I've lost 12 pounds since I've been back here off the road. Got back here, what's this month? November? I got back here in late September. I did September 27th. I had started losing weight before the last September 27th thing. So I'm down 12 pounds, and I feel good. Some OGs have helped me out with diets and encouraging me to do what we used to do when I was little. So, yeah, I'm feeling good about it. I just can't do much because I don't have the legs to do it. But I'm feeling better. So, that's it. That's my watercolors is XM radio. It is, I believe, channel 66. I know it's channel 66 because I listen to it all the time. Channel 66 on XM dial. Yep. And it's pretty much C jazz, they call it. It's a category called C jazz, but it's contemporary jazz. And in watercolors, you'll hear things that you won't hear or see on the charts of many, like Billboard charts, or some of the other people who have independent charts and so on and so forth. You'll hear, give you an example. You'll hear me singing, which in smooth jazz they've determined that they would rather me play saxophone. That's their thing. So that's cool. And you hear Jonathan Butler singing. You'll hear Luther. You'll hear Will Downing singing. You'll hear Mesa singing. They invest in the total artist. That's one of the things I like about them, is that they'll if they're moved by your work, they'll play more of you than just what the smooth jazz gatekeepers play. So give you a perfect example. I don't know how many of you follow it, but let's just say I have a single. Let's say the single. Lazy Afternoon, right? It's the top 10 Billboard single right now. Thank you very much, everybody, including Watercolors, for that. That will fall off the charts pretty soon. And when I say fall, that will fall off the charts like a rock. Pew! One day you see me, the next day you won't. So the industry right now is a very single-oriented type of thing. Well, now grammatically that didn't feel right. But my single stopped. So that makes room for another single going up, and then that'll drop. Another single going up by somebody else, that'll drop. They're not into investing in the long-term career of an artist anymore. It's just singles. That way they make more money because they don't have to really, whatever they let in, they let go, let in. And it's musically speaking, it doesn't really help the genre. It doesn't really help the artist's career. It will give them some attention, right? And then it's up to the artist, and I'm glad I'm talking about this. It's up to the artist at that point to take that exposure and to monetize that exposure themselves. It's a hybrid career now. I have a hybrid career, and I'm talking to many artists out here who may be fighting this whole thing or whatever. This is no longer your old record industry, or what am I trying to say? Career, your career. This is different now. It's about social media. It's about getting as much opportunity to put yourself in front of people as possible. If you have a top 10 record, or you have some sales, you have whatever it is you need to do, you need to put out there and let the people see you. It is about growing your audience on social media as much as possible in order to have independence from this system. And you can also deal with the system. I told somebody the other day, I was in a report, I'd spent almost probably more than $500,000 in the smooth jazz arena, right? I helped build it as an entrepreneur and as a saxophonist, as a person who has his own record company. I invested in myself, and I invested in the industry, even though sometimes the industry is a little different. I don't care about that. I still invested in it, and I feel, that's why I criticize it, and that's why I support it to a certain extent. It's because I spent that money in my career over maybe a 30-year period, 25, 30-year period. So my point simply is it's not that complicated. Once you get some love, you now have to monetize that and spread that over different areas like social media, go direct to the consumer after that, create a fan base, create an email base, create something that people you can talk to and let them know what you're doing, let them know what your artistry is about every week, every month, every year. And if they believe in you, they'll support you. But you got to have the goods. You can't come in there and be a mediocre saxophonist and think you're going to have success that I've had. It's not going to happen. Well, let me stop. There are mediocre saxophonists who are doing extremely well. But, they've kind of been adopted by the gatekeepers. In order to be independent of the gatekeepers, you have to be able to go direct to your consumer and make them happy. That's it. That's it. In fact, if you don't know, I'll talk about it real quick. Lazy Afternoon was a track that I did with Grover Washington Jr. saxophone. I had just purchased it, well, not just, but it was the first time I had taken it out of the case and played it. And I did 2 tracks, and the second track I just kept because it was just perfect for me. I was just, I was like, this is special. So it was a soprano saxophone. You'll see, I have the video on there. You'll see that's Grover Washington Jr.'s horn that he played Come Morning on, and what else did he play on that saxophone? I don't know how far back he went, but he played a lot of his hits on that saxophone. So anyway, that's a little bit about the business of the smooth jazz, the business of being independent in the smooth jazz arena. And like I said before, for people who may not have the kind of success that I've had, or relationship that I have with watercolors, there are still ways to make money. Now, like I said before, you're going to have to invest in your career. I invested in my career because I didn't want people standing over me telling me what to do. I had done that with Polygram and with other people. I had producers and managers, and I just didn't like that game. I thought it was, I knew more than the majority of people who were making decisions on my behalf. So I accepted the responsibility and, studied as I studied the saxophone, as I studied, the art. And I was able to make a decent career for myself on my own as an independent artist. I've been on my own as an independent artist now for probably about 30 years. Most people think that I was with a major record company when I wasn't, but I was only on a major record label probably for into the 90s, early 90s. Shiny Key was my last label, period, and that was 90s. I've been independent since then, and I'm very grateful for that. It's a lot of work, a lot of work. A lot of people talk that game. Yeah, I could do it. Man, it's a lot of work. I was even an independent teacher. I taught at Berkeley College for 35, 36 years or whatever, but I also taught on Skype and Zoom as soon as it was available because I knew I didn't like the way the curriculum was, and I knew that I knew more about helping people get to their goals because I was on the outside and I needed to get that information to them even though it wasn't part of the curriculum. And that's what I did. Let me just say this really quick since I'm on the teaching thing. I talked to a couple of my friends over there, and things are just slow because there's so many people teaching over there. But if you're an artist or if you're a musician, I'm gonna give you some advice. I'm gonna just let you know what I did. Remember this: the more music that you play, the more music that you study, the more business that you study, the better overall musician you will be. Period. Right? when I taught a class called The Music of Motown, and they actually kind of asked me to step off because the way I taught it was that, and I was young, but I not only taught the music of Motown, but I taught the business of Motown. I let them know that, Berry Gordy would do things like put out a song like I Heard It Through the Grapevine on Marvin Gaye and on Gladys Knight and collect all that money twice. I let them know that during the time when racism was at its worst, probably not as worst, but it was really, really bad, that he hired a white guy to go around to the distributors so the Motown people could get paid when they were starving other companies and they weren't paying them. The distributors weren't paying them their money on time, which meant that a lot of the smaller black companies were going into bankruptcy because they couldn't feed themselves or their artists. Motown bypassed that because they had people of a different hue talking to distributors who thought that Motown was a white-owned company with black artists. To me, that was more important than the music, but it wasn't to the institution. They wanted them to sing and dance and all that. And my philosophy was that they can sing and dance anytime, but why don't we teach them business along with music so that they can make better choices when they leave here. But that's when I started doing a lot of teaching outside of the institution. I still do. I teach on Skype. I teach on Zoom. And, all you guys got to do is just contact us. And if you want that kind of knowledge or, things that I've been through, as well as the music. But I thought that was interesting. I thought that people should know the business behind the music. And I still do. So if you're a musician, I digress. If you're a musician, studying the music of Motown, studying the business of Motown, so you can see how they did what other companies could not do, especially black companies at that time. It was no accident. They did some things that you might consider to be, not too moral, not too this, not too that. But just study it and see what the moves were, right? Sound of Philadelphia. You gotta study Gamble and Huff. You gotta study, what they felt about Islam and how that affected the people in the ghetto and the music and the messages behind what they did. Remember, Wake Up was Wake Up was a call to action. It wasn't just a dance tune. No more sleeping in bed. That was people talking to you about waking up and let's take care of the community, let's take care of ourselves, blah, blah, blah. No, there was a lot of that going on in the town of Philadelphia. And I think people need to know that. People always talk about, well, I don't like your politics. Man, you can go to hell. To be honest with you, this is what I lived through, the 60s and the 70s. These are the music and musicians that I took my walking papers from and said, okay, look, what do you think? This is what Curtis Mayfield and Impressions. He was the sound of civil rights. I lived through that. Well, I lived in the back end of it in the 60s and 70s, or I went through that. That was the music that I listened to. Marvin Gaye spoke about war. Edwin Starr, Motown, what happened? They started leaving the whole baby, baby, and focusing on songs, that had some movement to them, like What's Going On. Marvin Gaye. You wouldn't hear that now. It's an anti-war song, and you can make it hemmed up and sent to Africa if you sing a song like that. Now, not funny, but it's true. But my point simply is, if you're a musician, when you hear me play a song, even Lazy Afternoon, every note you hear me play, every phrase you hear me play, even when I'm singing you or playing to you and singing for you my life and the life of many, many, many different people who sacrifice so that I have the opportunity to study them and sing or play my opinion of what they were singing to me and to us. So that's how we carry on that, that line, that lineage. But when you don't do that and you want to just jump up and play and turn around and, jump up and down, all that kind of stuff, it's cool, it's a good performance, but you're not really advancing the music. And it's not even about advancing the music. It's about saying something to people that's going to stick to their ribs, When I sing Diamond in the Back, it sticks to their ribs because they know that I've been through it. And when I say, I may not have as much money as somebody, but they don't have the soul that I have, I mean that. And people can feel that, and especially people who have had to deal with lives like that. It registers with them. And then they pay to see me do it again and again and again. That's what I want for you. And that's why a lot of people have careers like that, in and out. Because they think if they follow the flash, that's success. And it's not. It's not. When you hear somebody on, I mean, give you a perfect example, right? People think what is that thing? The Voice or America, one of those things. Well, you think that's real and that those people, that's not all that is like politics and algorithms and, you know, you know, it's crazy. I don't even I never did watch it. I never did like it because I thought it was just a mess. And a lot of people really feel that that's singing. But think about it. You're not moved. You're moved by the gymnastics of the singer, but you're not moved by the stories, right? You're not moved by where you got to go. You got to go to Will Downing or Mesa. When you listen to Mesa sing about her love life or about things that she feels very passionately about, you feel that too. It's here, it sticks to your ribs. It's not a riff, although she can riff, but she tells you a story and it sticks right here, right? And you want to hear it over and over again. That's a dying art. And even players, Cannonball Adderley, when you hear him play work song, then think about this. Can't people know, oh, no politics, man. Cannonball Adderley was a teacher, first of all. Taught. Cannonball Adderley wrote, they played the song Work Song. Do you know what Work Song is about? Oh, I don't know what Work Song is about. Work Song are the songs that slaves sang during slavery. Yeah, that's what Work Song comes from. Do you know that the majority of people who play Work Song don't even know that that's what it means? You think it's about what's going to work for IBM or Facebook or Google? No. Work songs are the songs that people sang in the fields during slavery, period. When he did, so when you see Gerald Albright may not say much here, but he says it here, and you can feel all that in his playing. That's why you can feel it in his playing. You can't feel the same lines that you learned from Gerald Albright in yours. Because he knows the history of the music. He knows the history of Cannonball Adderley, and he comes right out of it. Boom, done. Charles McPherson, same thing. Go. I always encourage people to go and say, you don't have to play straight ahead, but his knowledge is not just straight ahead. It's that knowledge that you get from the root of the tree, right? We're playing, people like me, I'm up, like around the leaves and the branches. Charles McPherson is part of the root of our music, especially a straight ahead jazz. He can teach you so much in 5 minutes. I had a meeting with him in 5 minutes in Baltimore. Changed my damn life, man. And this was after he played 2 sets. So no, the reason why the music is failing us and musicians are failing us is because we don't really value the history of the music. Do you think that I would say, if I had an opportunity to talk to Grover Washington Jr. like this or over Zoom, that I wouldn't, man, that man would be so pissed off at me. Or Ronnie Laws. When I was able to talk to Ronnie Laws and Wilton Felder, man, I blew up their phone like, he probably was sick of me. Oh, that's this dude again. Hey, Walter. And they were always nice and always respectful. And they taught me and they shared with me everything that I asked about, especially Ronnie Laws. He's still a mentor of mine. But younger people who come behind me, they really don't understand the value of that. And you know what? You guys play that way. Anyway, yeah, so my advice to anybody on here who's a saxophone player, not even play saxophone. Just, you don't, people think, oh, I don't want to, you can't be a really, really good saxophone player unless you study that which came before you. You can't. You can be a flash in the pan, and if you're adopted by the industry, by the gatekeepers, you can actually make a good living being a mediocre saxophonist. I have a couple in mind, but I'm not going to talk about them because you already know who that is. But once you're adopted by the machine, you can have a great career. But those are very few and far between. I can tell you, that my ability to play music, my ability to study music more than anybody is my ability to work harder. And I don't want to harp on this. My father took me in the fields when I was 14 years old. I was a bad watermelon tosser. The older cats brought me through, and helped me to be able to get through the season. But once that happened, I really thought about the lessons that I had learned in there. Talking about really, really hard work. Those who work harder and work smarter than everybody else are successful. The equation is not that complex, it's not that deep. If you study harder and work harder, you're going to be okay. If you can teach somebody to be better than you at what you do, you should never be broke. Yeah. So what I'm getting to is that I can't ignore what I've learned. So when I come on here and you know, I talk about people who are being, slaughtered back east, or in the Middle East, or what I see and what I feel, and I can't even really write about it without being threatened with my career being taken away. I feel that as an artist, as a musician, and I can't do the Bob Dylan thing or even try to do the Bob Dylan thing because I get erased. You know what I mean? And that's the hard part about feeling a certain way in this economy and this doing what we're doing now, is that people who really want to go against the grain risk more than they've ever risked in their lives. People always talk about Muhammad Ali and this and that. I studied Muhammad Ali in the '60s. Much different Muhammad Ali. Malcolm X in the '60s. Much different Malcolm X than the corporate structure wants you to talk about. I studied Cesar Chavez. I come from an area where he came out of, and the farm workers strikes and all that. That was part of how I came up. That was part of the civil rights. By the time I was a teenager, I studied Marvin Gaye. I was studying Marvin Gaye, Mahatma Gandhi, Malcolm X, Rousseau. I read a couple of books called Social Contract and something else by Rousseau, because they all came. Gandhi and, give you for example, Gandhi and Gandhi and Martin Luther King talked about Rousseau, the social contract. So I read the social contract because I wanted to know why they felt the way they felt about human beings treating each other, being human beings in a certain way. Same thing with music, right? I want to know why John Coltrane plays the way that so-and-so plays the way. You got to, when you look at Dexter Gordon and all that, and how he was kind of like, the centerpiece, not centerpiece, but, a lot of people went through him, or he shared the stage with people and all that kind of stuff. And you can hear Coltrane and Dexter, vice versa. You can hear Charlie Parker and Cannonball Adderley, right out of Charlie Parker. Sonny Stitt, right out of Charlie Parker. Why would you just study the leaves or study the branch and not study the root? That's stupid. I mean, that may be a hard word for you, but it is stupid. Because you want to be a star, because you want to be this. I'm going to tell you something, man. What happens when people get tired of you jumping up and down, jumping from instrument to instrument, and just playing okay, singing okay? What happens when it happens? What happens? That's going to happen. I'm telling you, it's going to happen in 5 to 10 years. And you still be a young man or a young woman. What you going to do when people get tired of seeing you grinding up against a saxophone like you're trying to have a baby with it? Yeah, I said it. What's going to happen? What's going to happen when they really listen to you and they say, I'm not moved? Why aren't they moved? Because you don't know how to study saxophonists. You don't know how to study people who came before you. You don't know that the value is in the expression of people who came before you. I said one more time. I ain't going to say this shit anymore. The value is in the people who came before you and their expression, not yours. I don't care how many likes you get on Facebook or Instagram. That's it. Now you could accept it, or you can keep running around grinding a saxophone. That's up to you. All right. Yeah, I got I got to go give back the money from my performances. And like I said before, thank you to the people who prayed and people who kept me in the thoughts for this bum knee. The knee, and I'm gonna tell you what my mother said. The knee can be fixed. As long as things can be fixed, there's not really too much to worry about. Except, for me, it's just, making sure that I'm only working maybe about 30 minutes a day. What doesn't get done, doesn't get done. Just so I can keep the swelling down, keep the ice on it, and just keep the main thing. So I'm very, very, very grateful to you guys for understanding that, I haven't missed a show since my mother was diagnosed with cancer in 2020. So, and I came back out after that. So anyway, if you're feeling bad, nervous, or anything like that, go to the Blue Zone, BLEU Zone, ambient improv over on Facebook, and it'll just chill you right out. If you're having trouble sleeping, you go there. Have trouble with the high blood pressure and all that from stress or anything, it's gonna chill you right out. And that's my thing. God bless y'all. Bye bye.